Something weird happens when high performers start recovering from burnout. Instead of feeling better, they often feel lost, and nobody talks about that. So let's get into it. Because here's the thing, if you have operated your whole life under constant pressure, when it starts quieting, even though you've been deeply desiring that peace, it still feels weird. It still feels wrong. You often feel untethered, like you don't know who you are or what to do with yourself. It feels like something's missing, even though you know the thing that's missing is what was making you miserable. And it's crucial that you understand what this void is, why it happens, and how you can actually make the most of it, so you don't just end up repeating your pressure patterns again and again. So if any of this sounds familiar, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a career and mindset coach. And for the last 9 years, I've worked with driven, capable people who look successful on the outside and yet feel stuck, disconnected, and unfulfilled on the inside. And we've spent the last few weeks deep in our belief work, talking all about patterns, the beliefs behind our patterns, reframing them, and doing demos of that. But this week, we're going to zoom out and talk about what actually happens after this work starts to land. Because here is the feeling I want you to understand. It's that quiet, unsettled feeling. It is not dramatic. It's subtle. And it can feel like a little constant buzzing in the back of your head where you're not anxious about anything in particular, but the quiet feels suspicious. Like the other shoe's about to drop and you're kind of bracing for it. And this happens for a deeper reason than you might realize. It happens because we've created these voids by sucking out the pressure. First, there's this nervous system void. Your nervous system got calibrated to a certain level of chaos, to a certain level of noise. And once that noise disappears, calm does not feel like relief. Calm feels dangerous. I think about it like relationships, where someone who left a high conflict relationship finds their next stable relationship as boring, when really it's just stable, and they're not familiar with that. Pressure was always really functional. It told you what to do next. It gave you metrics. It structured your decisions. It served a purpose both sensorily and functionally. But then on top of that, not only does it feel tricky to exist in on a day-to-day basis, but you also have this gaping void when it comes to identity. Because when you operate under pressure for so long, you start to think about this as who you are. You start to organize your identity around this: I'm the capable one. I'm the impressive one. I'm the one who has it all together. I'm the one who handles hard things. And so once we turn down the volume on that pressure, our identity can take a hit too. That signal quiets, and then you start asking yourself this question you probably haven't in a very long time, which is, if I am not defined by doing and performing, who the heck am I? And this is not a crisis, but it does feel like one at first, because we now have these gaping voids, and that's why we feel this anxiety. Now, because of how yucky this all feels, there's often a very compelling instinct to repressurize here. I would say it's almost a universal response from the people I see, where they start looking for something new to optimize or push, like a new goal or a new framework or a new identity or something else they can do 100%. And it's really tricky because if we do that, it might feel like forward momentum, but really it is just your old pattern looking for a new host, showing up in another way. And that is why it is so important to name and identify this urge to repressurize. Because if we do not catch this and stop it, we will simply spend the next chapter of our life building a new pressure system on top of the one we just dismantled. And I do not want that for you. And that is why today I wanted to really explain this void so you can start to see it for what it is, see the urge to repressurize, avoid the urge to repressurize, and start using this moment for good. We use this quiet for good by seeing it as a requirement. I don't want you to see this as a problem. I want you to see this as a precondition. Your actual voice and your preferences and your values never left you. They were always deeply buried in you, but they were masked by all of this noise, by all of this pressure. And so I like to think of it as this kind of like internal whisper. We can't listen to that internal whisper if we have all these things around us shouting, you should do this, you should do that, pressure, pressure, pressure. I think of them as people with megaphones standing around us shouting. And so this silence that we're talking about that can be uncomfortable, it is simply us turning down everyone else's megaphones so that now we can try and listen to that little whispery voice, which is the true us. We need to reframe this uncomfortable silence, not as something that's wrong, just as something that is unfamiliar. Because this space, as uncomfortable as it might be, is the first place you can start to hear yourself again, and is the first place we can start to hear that little quiet voice. And it's everything we've been building towards. So if you are processing this right now, here's one thing I want you to try. Listening. Sit in the silence. Support yourself in the silence, call it what it is, and say, oh yeah, you feel uncomfy, but this is okay. This is a requirement, and keep going. Try noticing the things you're drawn to, not while doing anything with them. Just make a note of it, sit with it, and try to not act, because that is almost harder for acting for someone like you. This noticing of what pulls at you is where step 3 of the Achievers Reset framework starts. And we're going to talk about that more over the upcoming weeks. But next week, I'm going to show you what this actually looks like when someone goes all the way through this process. Because I think sometimes in that quiet space, what you need most is not another concept, but instead proof to see that this actually leads somewhere. So be sure to come back for that. If you are in this space and want support coming back to yourself, this is what we work on both in the bundle and in one-on-one coaching. So I'll link both of those below in the description. Otherwise, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.